Every year, 12 million US and EU citizens suffer from venous leg ulcers as a result of ineffective circulation, which is known as chronic venous disease, which destroys lives and has an impact on quality of life similar to heart failure. My name is Stephen Cox, and I'm here to talk to you about how we're set to transform the treatment of one of the most costly and neglected patients in healthcare. Chronic venous disease affects 1 in 4 of every adult in this room and 1 in 3 over the age of 65, and is increasingly prevalent due to rise in risk factors such as obesity and an aging population. And it places a huge burden on healthcare, spends up to 2.5% of Western healthcare budgets, and it gets worse for 4% of patients each year if left untreated. The cause of venous disease is valves in your leg veins, which are responsible for stopping blood flowing backwards. They fail over time due to weakening of vein walls, which allows blood to flow backwards and reflux towards the foot. The goal of current treatment is to close this diseased vein, allowing blood to circulate back to the heart through healthy veins. Symptoms for sufferers start with bulging varicosities. Legs start to swell as blood pools in the limb and starts to stain the surrounding skin. And unfortunately, for the unlucky people, chronic open wounds that don't heal, known as venous leg ulcers, start then as an advanced stages of the disease, which is very progressive and devastates quality of life, causing 80% of all leg ulcers. And unfortunately, this affects the 12 million people in the US and EU who are stuck in a cycle of recurrence between active and healed ulceration, and they cost $10,000 each per year to manage. Current treatments are unacceptable. Burning radiofrequency and laser modality requires an injection of a litre of anesthetic fluid in the limb, which requires 10 to 20 stab injections, which are quite painful for patients to tolerate. These thermal modalities are quite effective, but they pose higher risks on top of the pain below the knee for leg ulcers for advanced stages of the disease. Current non-thermals are either introduce toxic chemicals or permanent glue implants or are ineffective. So the market is looking for a less invasive, effective solution. Unfortunately, for the venous leg ulcer patients who are at higher risk for the radiofrequency effective treatments, they're conservatively managed. And that's even worse, to be honest, because it can take up to 6 to 9 months to heal a venous leg ulcer and has a very poor 50% recurrence rate at 4 years. Vascular surgeons know that earlier intervention and treatment of the disease cause not only reduces healing time, but also reduces recurrence. So the ideal treatment would not only treat venous leg ulceration, but it prevents its cause in the first place, earlier in the disease. But also, it would restore quality of life to the millions of patients worldwide. And that's why we've developed our InVera device. It's the world's first pain-free treatment that utilizes the body's natural healing to treat the full spectrum of the disease, from varicosities to venous leg ulcers, without using harmful side effects. It is an endovenous ablation catheter with a single-handed operation and a 90-centimeter working length. At the end of our catheter, we have an ablation helical coil made of shape memory material, which has an abrasive surface, which we use to scar the inside of the vessel to promote long-term healing. It fits in with the current flow of vascular surgeons who treat these patients currently. They map out the vein and the disease segment under ultrasound guidance. Then they use standard minimally invasive techniques, navigating our catheter without a guide wire up through the disease vein, which is usually the great saphenous trunk. Navigation continues until just shy of the deep system with the saphenofemoral junction. At that point, they use our intuitive handle to unfurl the helical coil, which expresses an outward radial force on the inside of the vessel. The physician then simply uses a clinical technique to withdraw and treat at the same time. This triggers acute venous spasm in the response to the injury we cause in the inside of the vessel, but it also makes cellular damage to the required level for a chronic biological reaction. And this chronic biological reaction then forces treatment closure. Everything is removed from the body at that stage. We leave nothing behind. Thrombostasis is the acute response that's absorbed by the body into a fibrous cord, filling the vein lumen, which prevents blood from pooling in the wrong direction towards the foot. And then you get, on the other side of the screen here, a completely absorbed invisible vein and everything returning to the heart through the deep system. Our value proposition is clear. It's non-inferiority versus market-leading radiofrequency, but it's also safer, less side effects. We don't burn, we don't use chemicals, and we don't leave anything behind, such as cyanacrylate glue as other competitors. It's pain-free, it's been tolerated by the 21 patients that we've treated so far, and it's faster for physicians as well. So vascular surgeons make more money per hour with our system, treating up to twice as many patients in their clinics. It's intuitive, uses standard techniques, and has no capital requirement. We have key opinion leader support from Dr. Lone Kabanek, who's a past president of the American Venous Forum, who sees great disruption for this Class II medical device. There's nothing out there like this at the moment, so this is a novel de novo pathway which provides for a new reimbursement code differentiation. We're targeting a premium price of $1,500 in line with current non-thermal new treatments and can make the device for $150 cost of goods with no capital requirement. The total market opportunity at a conservative estimate is over $3 billion worldwide. And the addressable market in US and EU and Japan is almost $2 billion, of which we believe 20% of the market is obtainable in the medium term. We raised a seed round of €4.5 million in 2020, led by a Japanese healthcare company, Nipro Corporation. 10 months later, we entered our first-in-human trial where we treated 11 patients, proved out the safety of the platform. Last year, we built our Gen 2 device, which used that first-in-human clinical experience to improve our design to work with the venous spasm we incorporate, but also to optimize our clinical technique. And we saw outstanding preclinical results, which we're now bringing back into the clinic this year with our Generation 2 trial at the same clinic in Budapest, Hungary, Eastern Europe. We've treated 11 patients so far, displaying excellent performance of the device with no patient pain, excellent safety results, no adverse events, and class-leading performance, with over 80% of treatments showing a quality of life improvement of almost 70% for patients. We're continuing to enroll this patient study, and we'll improve our clinical technique for our next cohort. We're raising an A round next year, which we'll use for our regulatory IDE study, which we'll use for our de novo FDA and CE mark submissions, and a pivotal comparison head-to-head study, and gather payer data for new reimbursement codes. We'll run these clinical studies sequentially with the IDE first, and then that pivotal versus radiofrequency, showing non-inferiority and less invasive outcomes. We then plan a market entry Series B to enter the market. We've built a strong team over the last number of years with clinical, commercial, and technical background and experience in venous disease. Our three co-founders met on the BioInnovate process following the Stanford Biodesign process for unmet clinical needs. The current market is dominated by Medtronic with their thermal radiofrequency, but the market is shifting towards a non-thermal and less invasive evolution. Current non-thermals either don't work as effective or they introduce toxic chemicals or glue. Recent entrants into the marketplace, such as BD, show that there is potential for new peripheral intervention companies to enter this very lucrative market. This shows the exit values in superficial venous ablation, but the point is that there is a potential for an exit here at the approval or traction stages at the A and B rounds. So with the growing prevalence of the disease, high associated healthcare costs, increasing evidence for earlier intervention, now is the time for our less invasive solution, which will disrupt this chronic venous disease market, restoring quality of life to millions of sufferers across the globe. We're interested in talking to investors who can share in that vision. I'd like to thank you for your time. Best of luck.